I guess firstly, if we could just start with each of you introducing yourself and saying how you're involved with the film.
I'm Erik. I co-wrote with my brother and co-produced with my brother and co-edited with my brother, and I directed and play Joseph Moss. Amelia?
I am Amelia Dudley. I played Sarah Moss.
And I am Taylor Turner, and I played Spencer Moss.
Obviously, we're here to discuss the film because it's about to screen in Grimfest next month. How are you all feeling about that? I think it's already screened over in America, but how are you feeling about bringing it to the UK?
Very excited.
So excited.
Taylor and Amelia are going. I was going to go, and I'm on a job. We'll see what happens. But these two are going.
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun to watch it in a theater with an audience that fully doesn't know us. It's not friends, it's not family, it's just horror buffs. So I'm really excited to see their reactions to it in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's Manchester. I think I've maybe been to Manchester a couple of times, but from what I've heard from people that have gone to Grimfest, it's a real nice community spirit. So I think they'll welcome you guys, and I'm sure they'll show you all of the haunts. So yes, be prepared for that. But for those that haven't read up on the film, in a nutshell, without too many spoilers, what's it about?
Taylor, Amelia, you wanna do it, since I usually do. You guys wanna do it?
No, Amelia.
It is. How literal do we want to be here?
Whatever
it's about. It is about a Spencer and Sarah Moss, set of twins, returning to their birthplace to hopefully find some answers about the mysterious circumstances under which they were born, and that really kicked off the progression that their life has taken to this point, and hopefully find some closure. And what they find is a little spooky.
Did it? Look at you.
Just a little.
Family trauma, always terrifying.
Where did the idea come from, Erik?
We had shot another movie up there 2 months prior that was very, very close to the inn, and so we had explored it while we were there as a potential location, and then it felt too spooky, and I said, I felt like there should be another movie in here. And so we started talking and said, what, let's just come back in 2 months and we'll do a horror movie here, and we'll write a horror movie around it. So we used the location as the starting point and all the stuff that we have. What's up, Carson? You coming in or no?
You're right there.
All right, nice. And so we wrote around that, and wrote around Taylor, Amelia, Bo, and Greg and their sensibilities and ways to surprise and showcase. And then just tried to get some cool iconography by way of the TVs that we had access to, and ways to add scope by bringing in other actors that we didn't have to bring to the location with us that could be in the TVs. And it just sort of evolved from there. But it was a very fun, intimate, collaborative process that was kind of rebelliously creative in the midst of everyone just kind of being holed up in their houses in late 2020.
And you guys, you all worked together previously on a show called the Cobblestone Corridor, I think. Did that prior relationship is that what linked you all together again, and did that sort of help when it came to shooting?
Yeah. Erik.
It sounds like I'm forcing you to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's been awesome. No, it was great. We, Amelia and I played twins on the Cobblestone Corridor 5 years prior. So we already had a great rapport and a great chemistry together. We had been known on more than one occasion after rapping. We would get together in the city and go to bars, and we would try to convince people at these bars that we were actually twins, and it worked a couple times.
We got to get our story straight.
Yeah, we got to get the story straight. But Erik also directed a short film that I wrote and produced a couple years ago, and so we've worked collaboratively in a lot of different ways. So it was like a no-brainer when he was texted us and is like, hey, do you guys want to come up to Vermont and play creepy twins again, but have it actually be creepy this time? And I was like, hell yes, sign me up.
But I mean, you've had a hair color switch, am I right? I think Amelia, you were blonde,
Thank
and now
you
this
for
time,
noticing.
yeah. And I tell you, like,
Yes.
which do you guys prefer, blonde or brunette?
Listen, I loved the blonde hair. I had been looking for an excuse to bleach my hair, because gay people famously bleach their hair in crisis, and it was November 2020 where we were all in crisis, and I was like, hey, Erik, it was like, 11:30, and I was like, Erik, I want to bleach my hair. And he was like, yeah, we can make that work. And then I think, Amelia, he floated the idea to you after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He floated the idea to me because I had been blonde, and he was like, okay, so what if we did like an inversion? And I was like, sure, why not? And I've kept it, so it's stuck. And now I think we actually probably look more like twins than we ever have before.
Yeah, right. Now that I'm once.
I think it's to the betterment of the movie. I mean, in editing, I often watch it and I was like, this just so suits what they're doing, but also the look of it. Taylor is in dark rooms frequently, and it sort of frames him in a really nice way. And then Amelia with all the TV stuff and the glow, and I don't know, there's just something about it that I think worked really well for what we were doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, was it a nightmare to sort of keep blonde, because it's, blonde hair is notorious, or was the shoot sort of short enough that you got away with it?
Oh yeah, there's a reason that it's not blonde now. I got it done. I think I got it done literally the day before we left, just because I was like, I needed to be as fresh as possible, because we shot the film in 8 days. So luckily, but I did like lug up a full like hair care set. My like friend that dyed it was like, you need to take this conditioner and this toner and this shampoo. And so I'm like, taking care of it, when we're getting ready for all of it. I think Amelia definitely had the easier end of it.
Much less maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got massive hair envy, so that's why.
Your hair color looks great though. Is that your natural color?
My natural color is slightly darker blonde, and I want that blonde, I want that white, but I can't afford a salon, so it's.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't either. It was just I had a friend that does color, and he was like, I give you a discount.
Nice. But I guess obviously outside the fact that you've all worked together before, and you've played twins and stuff before, what was it about your characters that you connected to?
Nothing. All right.
I was just I can only see like whoever's talking at once, so I'm like, is someone about to talk?
To speaker view, or the view at the top right.
I'm on my phone.
Anyway,
my laptop is
Amelia, what did you connect with Sarah Moss?
I think there's a really strong sense in Sarah that she wants answers and wants closure, and I think that's true for both Spencer and Sarah. Taylor, you can certainly speak more to that, but I think we all have things in our lives that we like feel a need for an answer for, whether it's like some kind of loss we experienced, or something that happened to us ever that we're like, this is something that like changed my life, and I don't know what my life would have been like had this thing not happened. And I think for Spencer and Sarah, that thing was the circumstances of their birth. And so they have had this waywardness and this sense of loss and sense of something being missing for so long. And I think that that's something that everyone can relate to in some regard. I know I certainly can, and that I think is like the strong root of Sarah wanting to be there, besides her, obvious love and care for her brother.
Yeah, I think the Spencer has a certain archness about him. Like he sort of sees the whole thing as like a fun project almost. He's like really into the like, I've got the recorders, I've got the documents, we're gonna embellish the story while we're telling it. Like he's like living his podcast life, kind of. and he has this sort of separation from it that like is probably a defense mechanism from having grown up not knowing the circumstances of your birth. And so I think I definitely related to that idea of like having something that's like kind of traumatic in your life or something that really affected you deeply and personally, and having to remove yourself from it a little bit and sort of distancing yourself and treating it as something that with less resonance, or something that's a little bit, because it's safer to kind of be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like observe this and make this into something fun or something cool. And you know, he's got the snarkiness, he's like kind of poking fun at the innkeeper and everything when he shows up. And it isn't until I think when he's like talking in the restaurant where he's sort of like, so this is sort of how we've actually been handling it, where we just like don't know. And so we really just want, like what Amelia is saying, we really just want answers at the core of it. But that sort of vulnerability, the chipping away to that vulnerability, is definitely something that I think speaks to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that always sort of stands out to me about your work, Erik, is, you know, it is the dialogue. You know, it is, you know, in here it's witty, and it feels, it's real, it's what people, you know, would say, it's how they would talk. I guess with this film, you know, there's also this like extra sort of like queer energy to the project. You know, was that something that you guys, you know, really wanted to make sure was loud and proud?
Oh, the queer energy to the movie.
Yeah. Those are some overtones in there.
Yeah, no, I think it was a natural thing that just kind of happened. I think it starts with, I mean, Taylor, you can speak to the performance, but I think that, I mean, we weren't looking to like overplay him at all, but I think that he's allowed, he is, you know, what he is.
Yeah, gay guy.
Which I think was, but it wasn't about that. And I think that was fun. And I think that allowed Beau, who plays Dean, to kind of be in the middle of this very weird love triangle between the two that was sort of there in the script, but really came into being on site. And we just kind of like allowed it to kind of be what it became. And then Greg is giving like the queeniest performance of the year, which is just, you know, phenomenal.
Giving camp work.
Just like
Greg Schwer, the scream queen.
He's Greg.
But I think that was really fun. I mean, I think it just adds this weird kind of internal seductive conflict between the three of them, and this idea of what can I say? Temptation is, I think, very important based on where the movie goes. And it just, I mean, Taylor, you can speak more to that if you want, or Amelia, you can too. But
yeah, I mean, Erik, I think when Erik, we were talking about the film when the film was still being drafted, and Erik was like, yeah, I think you're definitely, like, Spencer, you're definitely gonna be playing gay in this. He was like, not that you can't play straight. And I was like, Erik, I would love to never play a straight person in a film again. Like, please just let me, because like, I think as a gay man working in this industry, I feel like there's such a lack of queer roles where where like it's not about, where it is, the role is always about being queer. And it's always about like the struggle and like, like it's always a coming out story, or like the oppression that you face. And it was refreshing to sort of come in and just play a gay person where it wasn't commented on. Like, it was very obvious, you know, I'm like making eyes at Beau the whole time, and got the nails painted and the makeup and everything. But it was like a different, it was really refreshing to just sort of not have it commented on and just have it be a part of the character.
I mean, there's the occasional like self-referential thing where like, you know, like I'm a picture, not a picture, or whatever. But it's like that to me doesn't feel like we're like doing a take to the audience. Like, remember, I'm the gay one. It's more just like this is just like it's how my friends speak. It's how, you know what I mean. It's
gay people talk about being gay all the time. Like, that's all. Like, we always make jokes about it. So,
but it wasn't. But it wasn't for the audience's benefit. It was just more of.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was improv too, and it. Erik was very open to letting us sort of ad lib and throw things in that we thought, you know, were fitting to the scene. And so, yeah, I thought it was great. A lot of the reviews, we've seen some of the like IMDb and like Letterboxd reviews where they're like pointing out the like the big bisexual energy of the film.
I
which
was
I
like
think is,
the innkeepers or on Letterboxd, the innkeepers with bisexual energy.
yeah, it's
I was
like,
like,
hell yeah.
Great.
But I think it is important because this is a normal thing, and it's important that films start to normalize it. And like you say, you're not to sort of like point out, oh, here's the gay character. So I think and I think there is that thirst in that audience out there that they want to just see themselves be in normal roles where they're not defined by that one thing. And I think this film is a great example, especially within the horror genre of moving things forward.
Like, I don't think any of us were looking to like make commentary on it per se. Like, I mean, there's some queer stuff in the movie, but it wasn't about that. But I think that makes it better, right? That it's not like the gay horror movie. It's just like, oh, he's whatever. Like,
yeah, I mean, you'll think of it what you will. He's part of the movie. It's just it's not about that. It's part of what the movie is about, though. You know what I mean?
Good times.
Good times.
Yeah, and Erik, obviously, being an actor yourself, do you think that helps when it comes to directing your castmates?
I do, in my experience. I mean, I know for some people it needs to be one or the other, or you only do one thing or just one job at a time. But in my experience, if the infrastructure and people I'm working with allow it, and typically that means that it's intimate or that there's a large enough infrastructure to allow me to do it, I enjoy doing it because it keeps me from fatiguing at one thing. And I think I often, especially on our TV show, I kind of like direct it from inside the scene, just setting like pace and tone and things like that. I can just sort of have a sense for how things are from inside. And just having come from acting primarily growing up, I try to be as much of an director as I can and speak that language and understand what those needs are. So I think I can kind of do both at the same time, but only when it when it serves the project is the answer.
And I mean, I think sort of from looking at my letterboxd, I think you're up there like tied with Lee Francis and John Carpenter for my most watched directors of the year. But what I've sort of noticed is none of your projects are the same. I mean, like 10 Minutes to Midnight is a very different film to Weekenders. Is that some directors and filmmakers get stuck kind of making the same film on loop. Is it important for you guys to keep differentiating and making different stories?
That was something that we were all really excited about, I think, was to be able to do something of us, of me, of whatever, but different, so that we're not pigeonholed. And I think that the pandemic was, in a weird way, our most productive year in being able to do something like that and being able to take risks. I don't think I would have made Weekenders had it not been for COVID. I think it was sort of that time and of that moment that I had the freedom to do something that wasn't a genre movie, but is still very much part of me and does, work its way into genre movies with, more sensitive, introspective moments within like big loud genre fare. Like even here, like the family stuff is very potent, but I think that I like to play, and in building this there were a lot of conversations between me and Carson and Taylor and Amelia about like, what do you feel like you haven't done? How would you like to showcase yourself? And knowing what their strengths are so that we can, and I've said this a few times in other places, like surprise, subvert, but also like play to people's strengths as well, so that people can kind of have the opportunity to do the best and most exciting work that they can do. That's what drives us.
Yeah, I mean the I've never game in Weekenders is like one of the tensest, most uncomfortable things I think I've watched this year.
Thank you.
It's just so cringe. You sort of know where it's going, and then it sort of gets worse. So that was a joy. And it's like, and that speaks to I think performers too. I that could have fizzled if it wasn't the right people in the room, I think, because you read it on the page, it's talky, it's very talky, but when you have people that understand, that can bring their sensibilities to it, the air is just filled with electricity. And I think that when you bring in Taylor and Amelia for something like this, it's like there's the silences are filled with things too, just like it was in that paranoia drinking scene in Weekenders. It's like when the silences are filled with electricity, I think that's when you have something, and that just comes down to having the right people in the room. I was talking to Claire Foley a couple of weeks ago. She had to come up Fright Fest, and she mentioned that she'd sort of linked up with you for She Came from the Woods. And is there anything that you can tease about that?
I can. We shot a movie called She Came from the Woods in June of this year. We recently wrapped it. We're picture locking it today, and it's going to be ooh. And it'll come out sometime in 2022. It's a big ensemble movie starring Cara Buono and Bill Sadler and Claire and Spencer List about the last day.
Claire. She
Carson
just Claire.
took a screenshot.
Gotta send it to Claire.
The
Claire Foley.
last day of the summer of 1987 at a summer camp, and that movie is very much about family, the weight of legacy,
Right.
stories we tell, secrets we keep, traditions and secrets being passed on, what dies when we do, wrapped up in this genre package. So it's sort of those two very distinct but complementary sides of what we do woven together. So it's a coming of age movie that also happens to be a horror movie, just like, you know, Spider-Man Homecoming is a John Hughes movie that happens to be a superhero movie. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, and it seems also to be tapping into that that Fear Street zeitgeist as well, because obviously the
It's
second-
so
Yeah, it's funny because it's completely independent, and then we started seeing Fear Street stuff coming out, and like on paper, like to an outside eye, you're like, oh, it's that, it's witch, it's camp, it's 80s, 70s, and it's just like, oh boy. But I think it's a good thing. I think it sort of opens a door to those types of stories that I think people really, it's there, they like those things, and I think it's sort of like nice to be perhaps part of that new zeitgeist.
like with this movie, I think we all talked about, like, we're not looking to do something that has never been conceived in the history of humanity before. Like, there's nothing wrong with having something familiar. I just think it has to be specific. Like, if you inhabited the world in Eagle Inn with characters that weren't as specific as what Taylor and Amelia and Bo and Greg were doing, I think it would fizzle. But I think that because they come in as such fully formed individuals, yeah, it's people trying to find their backstory with daddy issues and haunted hotel. But I hope it has its own identity in the way that She Came from the Woods will, where the characters are just so relatable because they're so specific, which sounds kind of paradoxical. The more specific something gets, the more relatable it becomes. But I really think that that's true because the themes just become that much more visceral. But yes, it was funny on She Came from the Woods. We were walking with Cara Buono, who's Mrs. Wheeler on Stranger Things, and she's like, yeah, you know, Lee, one of the Duffer Brothers' wives is doing this Fear Street thing, and they're doing a camp thing. And she's like, yeah, but this is totally different. And it is very different, our execution. But I was like, oh yeah, you don't say, Cara, that's cool. And then we like, and then
a week after we wrap or something, it's just like
the trailer
wow,
drops, and I was like,
what is this?
and we watched them all. We had a really good time with them. But I was just, it's very funny. It's very funny.
But again, it just means that, you know, people that saw and liked Fear Street, which, you know, there was quite a few of them, you know, will then be looking for something that is similar. And if this has got some similar aspect to it, then they're gonna flock into this one. So that's obviously a positive. You know, as much as, you know, they might share some of the same DNA, they will stand out on their own.
That's why we watch these movies, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
you're watching that movie because it's like, oh, I like ensemble horror movies that take place at a summer camp. Just like if you watch Eagle Inn, it's like, oh, I like one location hotel movies with a fun little twist. I think that, you know,
Exactly. And there's space for it too. I mean, like our first like big, I think, movie we watched horror wise was Scream, and like I can't tell you how many times we're like, I want to watch a movie like Scream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's space for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess sort of bringing it back around to Grimfest, people will be obviously trying to pick what they're going to watch over the festival. Why should they, you know, why do you all think that they should take a plump on Night at the Eagle Inn? You know, what are they going to get from this that they might not get from some of the other films that are on offer?
Yeah, Amelia, why should they watch Night at the Eagle Inn?
You ask the person who hasn't seen it yet.
He hasn't seen it, yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm the only one here who hasn't. Well, they should come watch it because I'm going to be there, and it will be my actually no, it won't be my first time seeing it at that point, because I'm gonna see it with all y'all sooner.
You'll be there is the answer. So they should come for you.
I'll be there. Taylor and I are gonna be there. It's gonna be fun. Maybe we can try to convince people we're actually twins in real life again, that we're
I think if they want something that isn't afraid to, I think there's like a lot of like references and like referentialism like within the film. Like we make jokes about The Shining, we make jokes about Misery. So I think having characters that are very aware of the fact that they're somewhere really fucking spooky, but then finding themselves actually encountering that and doing so in a way that I think comes across as very authentic and very real. And I think having with a really strong like sibling relationship, and like you said, Eric is like very much an actor's director. And so I think the performances, like not just speaking about myself, but you know, Amelia and Bo and Greg are like really bringing their A game. And I think that just really helps to elevate the movie as well. And it's also like, it's a real punchy 70 minutes. It's like you're in, you're out. There's no dead air. There's a lot of dead people, but no dead air. And it feels more like a what did you say, Eric? Like one of those late night like unsolved mysteries.
Yeah.
It feels, because it is so intimate, it's almost less like this huge scope. It's not like She Came from the Woods where it's a huge ensemble kind of thing. It's like a very tight, isolated, like a moment in time where it's like this sort of forgotten urban legend-ish kind of feel to it. If you're into like the Twilight Zone, that sort of like Tales from the Crypt kind of thing, then this is definitely your cup of tea.
And Carson and I are also very much pro logical choices. So even if like the character ultimately makes the wrong choice, we try to make it so that you can always like track the train of logic that led somebody to do something. Like, you know, early on in the movie, he's convincing them that the hotel is full, but they're privy to it. Like Taylor said, they're aware of the situation that they're in. And I think that informs the decisions they make. So even though it leads to trouble, you know, you're like, that tracks.
Yeah, they're not like, it's not like they're idiot characters that like all decide to split up because like for no reason. You know, there's like a reason for it. And even when you are aware that you're in something spooky or scary or something is wrong, after a certain point, there's nothing you can do. Like your awareness of it won't change the fact that like your life is in danger, you know? So I think that adds definitely to like the tension of it and the
Drop something, sorry. I don't know if you heard that.
It was a phone.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
He doesn't want to look.
Also, Bo Manier is the hottest handyman.
Bo's abs.
Bo's abs.
Yeah, if you're curious to see abs that look like Tide Pods, come to see Night at the Eagle Inn.
Watch Bo Manier, who will also be at Grimfest, and he will be taking photos.
With his shirt off.
With his shirt off.
We promise. We haven't consulted him on this, but
yeah. He's on the interview, but we're speaking for him.
Yeah.
Someone should love by now.
I mean, other than you know, a trip to Manchester and you know, picture locking another film, you know, what have you all got lined up next?
Eric?
She Came from the Woods is the big one right now. Yeah. We also have Kat, I hope you watch this, a very random Christmas movie coming out this year in
Total 180.
In about a month that Taylor and I co-wrote, and Taylor is also in and is sweet as gingerbread. And it's very not Night at the Eagle Inn, but we were like, you know what, let's just do a Christmas movie.
Christmas on the Carousel coming
Taylor and I play best pals. And so that's coming out in a month, and She Came from the Woods next year. And then we have a couple of other things in development that we really want to make, and we're hoping that we can make
yes,
very soon.
Yeah.
And we'll all work together again too.
Of course.
Amelia?
Besides you know, our lineup of festivals and screenings, just, you know, my own kind of personal writing and auditioning, nothing concrete.
Yeah. I have the Christmas movie that Eric and I did, and we have another project that I've written and that we're developing right now and trying to secure funding for, and hoping that it will hopefully hit the ground and we can start filming that soon. So we've always got stuff in the pipeline. The Mainframe Pictures fam always has something brewing. So stay tuned. It's sure going to be
this one. If you're looking for something that is also different than what we've done, is it's like Casper meets La La Land. It's a coming of age teen high school set musical dramedy. It was a short film that I wrote and produced that Erik directed, which Beaumanier also acted in, along with celestial Emily Keefe. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Intermedium. It's like 20 minutes long. It's a little snippet of what we're hoping to expand into something, into a larger feature. So check it out. It's also, there's a supernatural tinge to it, but it's romantic, it's funny, it's heartfelt, and definitely a different flavor for sure.